Hello, how are you today?
Hello, Molly. I'm okay. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm testing out my different hellos. Um,
Okay.
so I feel like it's starting to sound very similar every week. And I don't know, when you listen to something the same way too many times, it starts to sound creepy.
Yeah. Oh, and boring too. Like, oh God.
Yeah, yep. So I'll keep playing with that and just bring in some
Okay.
different ones for us.
Okay.
But
Good.
to kick us off today, I know we both love to write and something that we wanted to come in and talk about. And I'm very excited about this because I could talk about it in my sleep. Um, and I know that we both love to journal as well as do other writings. And so a perfect place for us to start is probably finding out, when did writing first show up in your life? And was it something that you chose or did it kind of choose you?
Yeah, and I love that subject because writing was writing and reading, of course, books is was part of my life, like forever. And yes, I love the subject. Um, you want to start?
Ooh. All right. Some of my earliest memories are being under the covers with a torch, reading a book and getting in trouble, and ended up having the torch taken away from me so that I could not do that anymore and I could go to sleep. Um, and like going to the library with my grandma when I was very young and picking out books and things. Um, I think writing was always sort of there in the background. Like I love stationery and when I was little, it was just Word and you had the Word document and then you'd have the different fonts that you would do. And I'd always go in and find like the rainbow font and I'd just write words on the page just so I could see it in the rainbow font. And that was about as tech savvy as it used to be in the 90s. And when I really started to embrace writing was actually a lot later in life for me. And so I think trying to do the maths, it was actually 10 years ago. 10 years ago. So I would have
Oh,
been in my early
okay.
20s. And two things happened at once. One of them was that I saw a Snapchat from somebody that I followed, and they were talking about journaling. And
Mhm.
I was like, oh, this sounds really interesting. And they'd never really spoken about anything like that before. Like they were a musician. And I was like, this sounds really interesting. At the same time, I think it was within the same week, my mum gifted me a journal. And she was like, I heard about this journaling thing and I thought you might like it. And I have no idea what I've done with that particular journal. It's either lost in storage or lost to time. But she went through and she'd got this like notebook and she'd actually gone through and she'd stuck in little quotes and she'd written little messages throughout it so that as I journaled, these little cute little things would pop up for me. And that was April 18, 2016 was when
Oh,
I first started journaling, and I have journaled every day since.
oh, wow. And you are
Yeah.
so precise with your date.
That's definitely a date that I have in my brain. Um, but yeah, I adore it and I think it's one of the best practices I've ever come
Mm.
across. What about you? How did writing enter your life?
Mm, similar but different. So my mom was involved too, but she gave me her journals when I
Oh,
was
wow.
around maybe 14, 15. And and so when you say journal, uh, her journal is not what you would picture when you say that
Hmm.
word, right? um, Comparing to what we think about journaling today. It was more like um, in her time, girl was will create like a notebooks and full with the prose, with the poems, some kind of different text that they will share between. It will go around between friends and they
Right.
will cut these very interesting images that fit into whatever is written from magazine. They will cut these images and it was, oh my god, I would so it could sound like for many people, girls doing the girls thing, but for me it was how can I say, I was like natural dreamer, if that even exists. And as a very young girl, I spent a lot of time alone and living in my own world in my head. So when she gave me those notebooks, reading those pages for me was opportunity to create a story about my mother's life. I don't know if it was true, and the facts were not important. It was more about the feelings that I will have creating her, youth in my head. So that was the beginning. But the best part, many of those notebooks had blank pages at the end. And then I start writing down my own poems or something that I hear or read somewhere. And that was a way that I will put myself into her life. So for me, it was really, really magical. Later on, I continue. It was beginning at that did not stop for a really long time, but it just grow into something else. It become, let's say, more private, or sometimes even deeply personal. I didn't want anyone to ever open those pages and read. It was like a way for me to communicate with my inner world, because growing up as a teenager, going through all this turbulence, time and changes, then you don't have really understanding from adults, because for some reason when you become adult you erase your teenagers days. They do not exist. I never did that. So yes, it was kind of journaling for me during that time, where I can talk what I was going through, kind of.
That's so beautiful. Like,
Yeah.
I love all of that story. The fact that your
Oh,
mum gave you her journal, and
yes,
like you said, you really got to connect with her on a different level through that. And such a sweet idea. I haven't heard that idea of having a journal and passing it around between friends
yeah.
and having everyone
Oh,
add
yeah.
something. Um, but it's just a really cool concept. And
Yes, it's
definitely, like,
pretty popular.
yeah, and journaling can be whatever you want it to be as well. I've
Absolutely.
always found, like you just said, I've used it for those really internal moments. And I absolutely would not want anyone to read my journals. There is obviously a decade of them here, and I don't know, probably more than 20 to 30 notebooks filled in. Like, I go through quite a few a year. And if anything ever happens to me, my partner knows that he is the one that needs to burn them, because he's the only person I would trust not to go through and read them
Yeah.
first. Um, but it is like, for me, it was that really deep practice. And what I found was, that I'm really grateful for, is that I could go through and, like you said, I could start to move through some of those feelings, some of those things that I had going on, that I really felt other people weren't understanding, that I really felt I wasn't understanding, and I didn't have anyone else to talk to. And I at least had a place to write it down, and then, get it out of my head, start to read it back to myself, just get it off my chest, almost like vent without burdening anyone else, I guess, was probably what I was doing at that point in time. And one of the things from the video that I watched about journaling was they talked about, writing down these things that are going on for you, that are hard, that are difficult, that are upsetting, that, moving through those things, but also making sure you write down the good things as well,
Yes.
because you don't want to have all your focus going on to just the bad, and you want to have some focus going on to the good. So was there something that excited you in your day? Was there something that made you really happy? Was there an amazing conversation that you had? And I think that was probably something that I really needed to know when I started journaling. And I'm glad that I did because I absolutely, the space that I was in then and some of the space I've been in since could have got very sucked into that hole of darkness, I guess. But it's a beautiful space where you can go in. And I think I did when I started was I wrote down whatever it was that I needed to. So if it was challenging and it took up multiple pages, I just got it all out. But I
Mhm.
always ended with something positive. And so I always found something positive to put on, like to write at the end. It didn't necessarily have to be about that situation, but just something to shift my focus before I left the page and went back out to the world with everyone else. And I definitely think that was probably one of the best tips I ever got when it came to journaling.
Yes, and if you allowed me to continue on that, um, what you just shared, that something shift once when you finish. I Me being always smart, I do my own research. What is it about writing and what's going on from how can I say,
Scientific.
scientific side of writing, and I find out that there is even a science support behind that. And not that I explore too deeply, but for example, his name is James. Now, I don't know if I'm going to pronounce the surname, so I apologize. Pennebaker or something like that. Anyway, he was a psychologist who actually spent decades researching the benefits of writing, of exactly of journaling, not writing whatever, but journaling. And he actually, what he find out is that when people write about some difficult experiences, and if they write not only the fact of experience, but what they feel, and going through their emotional state in that moment, what's going on in a body is that actually stress is reducing, and then immunity system start improving. And what is interesting, you have more ability to understand what exactly happened just with writing that fact down. And that explained to me a lot, because I had I was going through different kind of writing experiences where I would be focused on more on my present situation, which was not really nice. And we did talk about that in our previous episode. Um, yes, but being scientifically backed is giving much better explanation why it is maybe good tool for reducing your nervous system, actually, the pressure on your nervous system. So
Yeah. I love that you shared that because I actually have not looked into much of the science behind it. I found it, discovered it, knew that it was working for me, and for me that was enough. But it is really interesting, like you said, like it's interesting to understand the science behind it, and it's interesting to know because there's something different that happens with your brain in terms of processing. It's like processing those emotions, getting them out and actually letting them move through the body. Um,
mhm.
and there's definitely something that different that happens as opposed to just thinking about things all the time, to actually write them out, something shifts. And I've never been able to quite explain it. Like I know that it happens. And so I feel like you just sort of filled in that gap of there actually is
Yes,
science to say that this is what happens when we write stuff out. And I think it's the same when we then go and add, like, we talked about that positivity in there as well. We really get to then enjoy those emotions and be in those emotions more as well, while we're writing them out, which is always very interesting space to be in.
It is. So when I read that, I now why am I doing that? We live in a world that we live, and um, we believe in science. So I think I developed that habit when I hear something that is not common, or it could sound like woo woo or whatever, and I don't have much experience around that, then I start searching, okay, let's see what is that scientific side of whatever I heard. This is how I actually start with mind movies, exploring mind movies method, and finish up being certificate in the end. But I needed to support that with a scientific side. So one more interesting fact is that so I will try to explain that the way how I understood. So when you're thinking, when you're just sitting and thinking, our brain, the thoughts are coming really fast, and it could be very hectic and very busy in your mind. So when you sit down and when you try to write down those thoughts, you actually have to slow down, and you have to organize the thoughts in your head and pull out the one that is, let's say, strongest one or more important or whatever, to write that thought, that sentence on a paper. So that's one step. Neurologically, what is happening? You're activating your, now this is really science, but you are activating your prefrontal cortex, and that part of the brain is in charge for understanding. And when that's activated, it will affect your emotional alarm system. And what's happening? You're slowing down, you're calming down. And I think the title that you gave today sits really, really well in that explanation. That's what happening with calming down a racing mind with writing. And yes, it helps me a lot to understand what I was going through and why I choose that as a tool to help me out when it was really hard, but also when it was nice.
Amazing.
When
I
the
love
time
this.
was good.
I feel like we've learned so much already. Like that's it. We're done. 15 minutes. It
Yes,
is
yes.
really interesting though, isn't it? Like to hear the
Yes,
science behind it. So I've been experiencing this for 10 years and to hear the science behind it and go, oh yeah, that's what's happening. And like you said, when we've got those thoughts, they can race. And I think part of the overwhelm that we feel and the anxiety that we feel is just the fact that our thoughts are almost running away and we're chasing them and trying to keep up.
yes,
And when we can, like you said, we can actually slow our brain down and we can feel like we're coming back in alignment together to go, I'm actually in step with where my mind is. I can keep up with my thoughts and I can notice what they are, I can understand them and I can do something with that. Um, it brings us back into the space of just being able to take a breath and go, right, that's what I'm thinking about. That's how I'm feeling about that situation. Um, and then what do I want to do with that information from here, as opposed to being bombarded almost with
Mhm.
our own thoughts, which really can happen. Um, and I think that's a really interesting topic as well. So, like looking back at some things and going, well, who's this person that wrote that? Who was
Oh
I
yeah.
then? Because sometimes things come out and they don't necessarily sound like the version of you that you have in your head. as well. Have you ever had anything like that happen?
Oh, yes, many, many times. Um, Sometimes it would be like, oh, like I would be very surprised, and I will read again and again, and thinking, oh, I was so smart in that moment. Oh, where these words coming from? But also I have to, because you talk lately about duality on
Mm-hmm.
your Substack
Yeah.
and in your newsletters, and um, there is duality. So sometimes it will be, I will be amazed with the part of myself that can put the feelings and thoughts in that kind of words. But then I will go back to what I write down in when I was in a dark
Mm.
place. That when I read that again, I will just throw it away. Um, well, I don't want people to see that as a, oh, that's some kind of ritual. Not at all. It's just it will lose the strength, and it will lose the meaning. Like it will become, how can I say? It will become irrelevant. Like it's like you go again through to certain situation, and you realize, well, it's done. It happened. I can't do anything about that. And whatever I wrote, and I was going through some hard moments in that moment, doesn't sound nice. And I don't want to go back to that. It's done and dusted. So off you go in a garbage bin. So yeah, different situations, really.
That's
What
really
about you?
interesting that for
Yeah.
you it is less about that ritual of I'm trying to get rid of it, I'm throwing it away, I'm burning it, I'm purposely trying to create that shift. And for you, it's, I guess going through that process of having that shift and then going back over it a little while later and going,
Uh-huh.
you know what, that really doesn't fit anymore. That's
No,
that's already
no.
in my emotional and mental garbage bin. So let me just put this bit of paper there as well. Um, and it is like the rituals can absolutely have a place, especially for some people, depending on where they're at with the journey. But I love that you come in and you're like, nope, that's garbage. I don't
Yeah.
believe that anymore. It's done. I don't
Yes,
need it. There's just so much
exactly.
conviction in that.
Look, it works for me. It doesn't mean that it's gonna work for someone else. Some people maybe need that like ritual part of, if we're talking about writing, to um, write down something and then throw it away or burn it or whatever you want to do that for you, which explaining that there is a lot of different styles that you can use in a writing. What do you know about that? I think we have a different style, you and
Yeah,
I.
I think we definitely do. I have never thrown anything away out of my journals. And I know
Okay.
those people, I've got friends that have gone and been like, it's been 10 years, I'm just burning all my journals. And they sort of go through that process, have a bit of a ritual. I think I'm a bit more attached, but in
Mm-hmm.
a way that I have a lot of compassion for the version of me that has gone through
Yes.
these different things in life. And I don't know, there's something for me at the moment, and it certainly may shift in the future, especially when I run out of bookshelf, which is happening at the moment to put all these journals on. But there is something for me about it almost feels like throwing away a part of myself. And even
Mm.
if it's not a part I align with anymore, I still am like, that got me here. And I appreciate that. And there's a point where I may want to look back at that and go, yeah, have a little compassion for that. I can see how that got me to where I am today. I can see how that really shifted my views on particular values or taught me a lesson or showed me something that I didn't realize until I had hindsight for it. Um, but I also, in saying that, I'm not someone who has gone back through many of my journals. And so I don't go back and reread. There's probably maybe a handful of pages over the last 10 years that I've gone back and reread. And the only reason is because I've gone looking for information. Like I've been like, I need to know a date for a medical appointment. I need to line up some information so that I can give it to someone for something. And that's usually the only time I've actually gone through my journals looking for something. So um, that's probably why I have a bit of a different attachment to it as well, because I don't actually go back through it. And I just know that if I ever feel like I need to, it's there, but I don't usually feel like I need to. Like I sort of do the processing and then I just move on to the next thing.
That's
Mm.
very interesting. Yes, definitely different style. My style used to change over the years and depends on situation. Where I start with notebooks with nice pictures and just poems that somebody else write or myself. Then that was not enough. Then I start creating for whatever I was experiencing as a young girl that exploring the world for the first time. I will create a little stories around that. And when I was maybe 16, I think I even start writing a book. I was so inspired and motivated, thinking that with 16 years old, I know so many things and I can put that in a book. Never finished that book, of course. But it was kind of a diary again, the journal, because it was parts of my life, um, or experience or feelings. Um, Today, my style is that, okay, I need to discuss with myself. And if I can't sit with certain feelings, and when the thoughts start to waking me up 3 a.m., then I have very strong need to write them down. And once when I write them down, definitely, as you said, something is shifting and it's like, okay, that's done. I can continue now. So that's my way today. Very helpful. I learned another way with you,
Mm-hmm.
with your group coaching that we have a while ago, about setting goals. And then I learned, oh, okay, so the journal can be about setting your goals and follow up your steps. Is there a progress or not? Follow up your mistakes, because we can learn and we're learning from our mistakes. Okay, this is the area that I can improve. I found that very interesting. um, as a way to have a journal, um, like following up the progress or whatever is happening. So that's another interesting way. Thank you for that. Um, and if you allowed me to share, I talked with my best friend, and I said to her, well, start journaling. Maybe that's gonna help her. She was going through something, aren't we all? And she said, yeah, I might do that, but I have no idea what to write down. And she made me thinking a lot about that. And then I start talking, with other people, and there is the same kind of answer. Well, I really have no idea. I was never good in writing, and I don't know what to write down. And like, oh, now I have to every day put no. If it's obligation, if you see that as a chore, it's something that you have to do, don't do that. It's not your way to help yourself. It's not your tool. But she was really willing to start that, and that gave me idea. Okay, there is a how we call them, prompted journals. And I spent some time to create one of those journals um, after we had the first podcast and talk about self-trust. So I created a journal with the prompts, with the questions that will help you to go a little bit deeper, explore yourself, your inner self that is most of the time unknown to us, and most of the things we are not aware. So with questions that are created in a certain way, and I really put a lot of time and effort into that, um, make you think about your everyday life in a different way. And the women who fill up this journal, and it's not only for the women, just to make clear, were really impressed. And I realized, okay, that's one of the ways that we can help each other. It's, of course, it's free. It could be downloaded. Just follow the bio. Anyway, that's another style of journaling where you just can relax, being relaxed, sit down with yourself and just follow the questions and have that conversation. It's like someone is sitting with you. So I did not make that up. I just see that as opportunity to maybe help someone. Well, it helped me, that's for sure.
Yeah, I love that you've brought this up with the prompts as well because I actually got my best friend into journaling also and
There you
with
go.
prompts as well. And I that's how I really got into journaling at the start actually was I was writing down, like we said before, like writing down these things that were going on. And as I started to work through those things, I started to go, well, I really want to keep doing this practice, this journaling, but I'm not quite sure what to write about. And I went online and did the same thing. And I looked for prompts and I found one that um I can't remember what the questions were, but there might have been about 8 questions, and you could just do the same thing every day until, you got sick of it. And I did that for, I think, probably over 12 months. And there's been multiple people that I've introduced to journaling that I've gone and I would not be able to find it now. But I had that prompt for a long time and I used to give it to people and be like, just try this. Just try this
Yes,
to get started. And if you start answering the questions and other things come up, then go with what comes up for you if you don't finish the questions. Um, and there's those different types of prompts too. Like the one that you said is almost sounds like it's taking you on a journey. It's specific around self-trust. It's really going on that journey with you. And I haven't actually told you this, but when I saw that you had created yours, I remembered that I had started creating one a few years ago and I went and pulled it out and have been working on it as well, as a free download, where yours is a journey. Mine was more like I've brought those books where you just sort of flick to a page and they've just got a random prompt and you just
yes.
go with that random thing. And that's how I did mine, was just these random prompts that, like you said, get you thinking about life differently. And there's some really cool ones where you can go on a journey where you can just pull out a random prompt for the day. Or you can have something where you go, this is what I feel in every single day. And these are the questions that I answer every single day as almost like a bit of a daily reflection for yourself, just to sort of move through what's been coming up on the day and take that time to actually reflect. And I think that that's a really beautiful thing about journaling. And so my journaling is, like you were saying, very diarized, very internal. And I think sometimes we're so busy that we just forget to reflect on the day. Like, was there
Yeah.
something that came up that maybe we need to deal with and we've avoided it all day and now's our space to sit down and move through it? Were there some beautiful things that came up throughout the day that we just want to sit and take a moment to remember and take a moment to enjoy them and appreciate them, because maybe they happened at the time we were also busy. And so whilst we noticed them, we didn't really give them a lot of time. Um, and just really knowing, like, this is what my day-to-day life looks like. This is how I'm living my life. And like you said, like when we did it with the goals, we used it as a tracking system where, like, where am I at with my goals? What have I done towards them? And noticing even those little tiny bits of progress that you're making, as opposed to only noticing the big things that happen in your life. And because we live life in those little moments. And so if we can notice them and appreciate them a little bit more, and we can understand this is how I live my life, this is how I live my day, we can then sit there and ask the question, am I happy with this? Is this how I want to keep living my life? Is this how I want to keep living my day? And if it is, fantastic. How do I do more of that? And if it's not, well, then it gives us space to look at what do I want to change. Um, but it is, I think, sometimes very scary for people to start, not just because they don't know what to talk
Yes.
about, but also because you then having that self-awareness and that self-reflection is coming into it as well. So, um, have you had any, I guess, suggestions or tips for anyone when they have felt a little bit scared to start having that self-reflection, that self-awareness with journaling?
Um, well, if it is a tip, I don't know, did I made up or I probably heard from someone, but I don't know why we, it doesn't, okay. So my thoughts are going everywhere. I need to write down to slow them down. What I'm trying to say, it doesn't have to be scary, even if you want to do that. It doesn't have to be hard. It doesn't have to, become an issue. Oh, what I'm going to write down. Open the first page and just put one word. First word that come up into your mind. Just ask yourself one question, whatever. If you are sad today and you have a need to put some words on a paper, ask yourself, okay, why do I feel sad? Write that down. One word, one sentence, one day. Go back after 5 days. It doesn't matter. It's more like habit that have a benefits. So if you want to build a habit, just create consistency around that. And sometimes I'm not writing anything. I will just actually draw something that has meaning for me. Yes, I am self-taught artist, but artist, it's not that good, that drawing, but it doesn't matter. We are not writing journals for someone else to read them. It is just a tool to take the burden that we sometimes put on ourselves. So even one word for today would be enough to start with. And as you said, it's a journey. Go through that. I love your sharing because you mentioned something very important. How do we look into success? Like, oh, am I a successful person because I finish a school, a college, I got married, I have kids, I work, blah, blah, blah. Now I'm retired. What is success anyway? I think it's very individual. And definitely it's not how much money you have. Do you have a big or a small house? Success is to live that quality life. And if you need tools to live quality life, there you go. Writing can be one of those tools or not. I have two very important tools. One is writing, the second one is drawing. So if I'm not in a mood for writing, I will draw something, and this is my way to express myself. Everyone can find their own way. What do you think about that? I'm really, really curious because I know we have these differences that can support each other, actually.
Yeah, absolutely. I love the idea that you said of just write down one word, like ask yourself one question, and even if the answer is just a word, and I think it really helps, like, and this comes from a coaching perspective as well, to then start to have that relationship with yourself, start to bring in that little bit of self-awareness. And even if it's just that 30 seconds or that 1 minute that you start with, you're just starting to sort of get used to sitting with yourself for that 60 seconds. And then later on, you might come back and it starts to be 2 minutes. And then you start to get really used to sitting with yourself and going, okay, this is what I'm feeling. Let me go and use this tool, like you just mentioned, that I can take a moment to move through this. And it's something I can do for myself, like writing, it's almost free. Most of us have pen and paper or a phone with a notes app or a laptop or something where we can write something down already in our homes. And even if we don't, to go out and buy a pen and paper can be quite cheap as well. Doesn't have to be fancy, it doesn't have to be special. And we can have access to that. Um, and I always say to people, like, just take it slow, take your time. And if you just write down a couple of sentences the first day, and like you said before, like it doesn't have to be a daily practice. Like for me, it is. But for some other people, it's not. Some people sit down and do it once a week, once a month, when they feel like it. And it doesn't have to be, you know, they talk about 3 whole pages need to be filled in and don't move until you've done that or sit there for a certain amount of time. And I think that puts too much pressure on. I think it's just, can you
Yeah.
sit with yourself for a period of time, whatever that looks like for you? And can you just ask those questions? And if asking those really personal questions is hard, you can ask questions like what you've just mentioned. What is my idea of success? Can I
Yeah.
explore that? What does that actually mean to me? Where
Yeah.
did I get that from?
Exactly.
Who told
Yeah.
me that?
Doesn't have to be answer. Write your question. Come back
Mm,
tomorrow and read again, and maybe you will have answers. So the point is to, it's like with the self-development. When you are just at the beginning, most of the time you have in your head, oh, I don't know, what is that? I don't know, what am I feeling? You are in that unknown space and slowly learning. Well, this is just a tool and everyone can do that. Oh, can I share something interesting with you? Oh, I always have something to share.
please.
We have a saying, maybe there is a saying on English too. So we have a say, it just come up into my mind, saying in my country, papir trpi sve. So paper, I will try to translate that. So you can write down whatever you want on a paper. The paper will never answer back or resist or be upset or be offended, or so it doesn't matter what you're going to put on that paper. It's in your control, but you can take out of your system something that is disturbing, or causing a discomfort. You don't
Mm,
even have to have a journal every day doing, writing down. Just take that paper somewhere around the house, and write down what is disturbing inside you. And it's already good enough to feel better. I don't know. That saying is actually, have a lot of meaning suddenly.
that's a very good saying. And
Yeah.
it's so true as well. Because you can write down things on a bit of paper. And I've done this before with my journaling, is I've gone and gone, I want to approach a situation. I want to have a conversation. I don't know how someone else is going to react. Like they may talk back, they may get upset, they may get angry.
Yes.
Can I go and write it down and actually work out how I feel and what it is that I actually want to say before just sort of going in and blundering my way through it? And sometimes when we can sit down and do that, it doesn't always work. But sometimes when we actually work out what it is that we want to say to people, we can actually start to have that clearer communication. And so it is like it can be used to work through feelings, to create more gratitude and notice the good things in your day, to get really clear on your communication with what you want to say to people, to ask questions and just learn about yourself in a really fun way. They don't have to be deep, they don't have to be dark, they don't have to be, um, you know, almost intrusive sometimes. doesn't have to do that really big emotional work all the time. It can be the really fun stuff as well. Like we said before, like, what is my idea of success?
Yeah.
Write about your favorite meal if you're not sure what to write about, and talk about why it's your favorite. What do those flavor combinations do? How do you feel? Do you do a little dance at the dinner table when you eat it? Where do you go to have it? What is that experience? And it's really just, I guess, almost building this identity, especially when you have quite a few journals of who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And you really get to explore, who am I? Who am I when I feel like this? Who am I when I think about this? Who am I when I experience this, good, bad, or otherwise? And what does that tell me about myself? And I think that, like, having that almost playfulness with it and that creativity with it can make it really fun. We talked about rituals before, and I'd love to know, do you or have you had or do you have any rituals with your writing, or any, I guess, little things that you've done in your routine, either now or in the past?
Not quite rituals, um, but no, not really. All I can say about that is that my writing was style of journaling was never the same. Like, I can't follow. It has to be um, something different. It's somehow part of my personality. I guess after a while I have to change, but much more influence with the situation, and then I can say in going through the certain period of times and writing about that is different. It has a different ritual in a way that I had to be alone to be able to put the words on a paper, or I really don't have to be alone. I can do that with anyone present in a room. Um, Maybe because I'm writing about something that is nice, and it makes me feel good about that. And it's a way, or I'm sharing with everyone, even they can't read it, you know. So if that's a ritual, yes, in that way, yeah. But more like a style. Uh, I was going through a period when I was writing letters
Mm.
that I never sent. Like, I was talking with that particular person, saying the things that I was maybe not able to say, or I didn't want to say aloud. And I forgot about that. Um, One interesting story, it might help someone. When my second separation or divorce happened, my first coach ever helped me out, reminding me what I can do. So I had my regular journals, but that was not helpful in that moment. And because I was angry, I was going through all these big emotions, you know, and I'm crying, I'm laughing, I'm upset, I don't care, and whatever you can go through. And in one moment she said, well, why don't you write a letter to that person and to my ex-husband, and you don't have to send it. So that was like, oh my God, I know that was very helpful. So sometimes you forget the tool that was helping you. And yes, I write a lot of letters, and of course I never send them, but I will forget them as soon as I write them down. And what I learned, sometimes when you have those big feelings and you want to address those feelings towards person who caused them, or you believe they caused them, you need to step back, and it's very hard to use the silence as answer. You want to scream, you want to be angry. So instead of avoiding these big feelings or direct them towards that person and then regret, because most of the time we regret when we do that in a heat of the moment, write them down. I want to tell him that he hurt me, he did this, he said that, and whatever, doesn't matter. But write the words the way they come out from your head. And every time when I do that, I felt like I don't have burden anymore. And I was not even angry. I help myself to experience those big emotions, and they lose the power over me. I think that's what's happening.
Such a fantastic example. And I
Yeah,
love the idea of writing the letters. I have heard of that before. I've never done it. But I have heard of it, and I know that it is really helpful for a lot of people. Um, I have a very set ritual and routine around my writing,
you
and it
do.
has, I think, been the same, but just refined a little bit over the years. So
Mhm.
I write in the morning, first thing when I wake up, in bed, um, and I always have a hot drink with me. For quite a few years there, it was a ceremonial cacao. Now it's usually like a cup of tea or something, but I always have a hot drink and I sit there and I write. And for me, I think it really helps me to be with myself first thing in the morning before I go out into the rest of the world. And there's some things in there that no matter where I am, they always stay the same. So it's always a hot drink. It's always low lighting, unless I can get like natural lighting, like with a window or something. It's always low lighting, and it's always quiet. And so if I can't be in a quiet environment, usually it is because like I've woken up and it's in bed and it's where you sleep, but I will always have earplugs with me as well, because I get very distracted otherwise. And even when we go away on holidays, 90% of the time I will keep that routine. And so we can be in a different country and I will wake up in the morning and I'll find my hot drink and I'll put my earplugs in and I will write. And it's, I think for me, having that routine has been really nice and very centering. And sometimes I will write pages and pages and pages. And other times I will write half a page. But it's just had space to sit
Yeah.
with myself. And doing that in the morning for me works a lot better. I know for some people it's at night time, for some people it's spontaneous. Um, but yeah, that's always been my routine. It's always been my ritual. And whilst it's got a little bit more relaxed, it's very much, and everyone knows. Like my whole family knows, my partner knows. They know that if I don't have the time for it, I will make the time for it. So like I will get up half an hour earlier if I know that, we're on holidays and we've got to be somewhere because I love having that time to myself so much. And
Oh,
sometimes
me
it'll
too.
like if I have a 4 o'clock flight in the morning, I am not going to be getting up at 3 to do it. I will do it at the airport. So there will be some flexibility in there. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's just I think everyone just knows like that's what Molly does and she's going to do it. And so I'll get up and I'll talk to people at breakfast in the morning. Then I'll go, okay, I'm going to go do my journaling now. Like, you'll see me in half an hour. And it's almost become like this inbuilt boundary that I have that everyone goes, yeah, we're not going to disturb her for half an hour. We'll wait
Mm,
for her to come back out into the world now, which I think is quite cool.
yeah, and you just remind me, I read recently about her name is, let me see if I can remember, um, Julia Cameron.
Hmm.
And she's a filmmaker, actor, and she wrote a lot of books. And one of the books is actually about morning journaling.
The
And
artist's
that's
way.
very, very interesting that you just mentioned. And she was actually exploring and explaining as a tool to start a day, taking out all these busy thoughts, because as soon as we open our eyes, they just start bombarding. So to clean up your mind with all these busy thoughts and then start fresh from the morning. So wow, that's actually really good practice. I never thought about that. Even I read about that, but I never put too much attention until you just shared. That's
Yeah.
interesting. Okay, let's
And
see.
I know some
Maybe I
people do
change
it at
again.
I know some people do it at nighttime as well. If
Yeah.
they are going to bed and they're laying in bed having those racing thoughts at nighttime, they'll do the same thing. They'll do a brain dump and then they'll go, now I can rest. And I guess it also helps, like you were saying before, with that calming the mind and actually slowing it down. And sometimes I think it's less about getting the thoughts on paper and being able to hold on to them and more about, can I just slow myself down? Can I come down into this space so that I can either go to sleep or I can get up and start my day from a really good space
Mhm.
as well,
Yeah.
which I think is really helpful. I'd love to share. I have also written poetry and books as well. So whilst I've always had my journaling practice, um, I ended up with a poetry practice for about 2 years, I think. And it was interesting because I'd never written poetry before, and I didn't decide to write poetry. It decided to just come through me. And um, I love it. We actually have some of my poems framed and on the wall in our house. Um, and when I started doing that, it was one of those things where I just used to write and I started just writing these poems in my journals and these words would just come out of me. And what I worked out was that at the time I was in a really crappy situation and it was like my brain's way of processing all these big emotions that were happening. And so instead of sitting there and writing out, oh, this is where I feel, and this is what happened, and this is why it happened. Um, I think as I don't know if it was a survival mechanism or maybe just a way to process some really hard stuff that I didn't know how to process. But my brain started coming out with these poems and having this beautiful poetry come out. And um, like that was just a really different way to move through some of those big emotions as
Mhm.
well when I didn't even know necessarily what those emotions were. And it was hard to look at them, especially on a daily basis
Yes.
with where I was at. And so, yeah, it was like my brain came up with a different way to deal with that that was creative and fun and surprising at the same time. But it was one of those practices where it just flowed out of me for a long time. And then one day it stopped. And I haven't written many poems since, and it's been a couple of years. And there's a part of me that goes, I'd love to sit down and start doing that again.
Yes.
Um, but I also, like, I just find it really cool how our brain works to go, this is what you needed at this point in time. You were
Exactly.
already writing, you were already engaged with this practice. But when that got a little bit hard, here, let's do something else that's a little bit fun and a little bit playful. Um, and I was reminded of that when you were talking before about your mum's journal and it had all the poems in it. And it's just, like writing can also be really creative and really fun as well as a different way to process things that we're thinking about.
Yeah, and it's a way to express yourself. And um, what I remember from the time when I was writing much more and poems or um, whatever I was writing, it was mostly like storytelling, journaling. Um, Sometimes we don't have a language around what we are experiencing. And maybe that's the moments when we need a different way to express that. So your way or my way, where I was much younger, was writing a poem, because that makes more sense. That's how the words are coming out, even when we don't know what's going on and what we are processing in that moment. Even if we can't name the feelings, we name them through the words that you put in a poem. So make a lot of sense the moment when you stop doing that. It means that you learn a new language. I'm joking. But yes,
You're
like
wrong
you,
though.
yeah, you learn what's going on, so you don't need these poetic words anymore. um, but you probably start doing something else. Did you feel sad? What kind of feelings did you have when you stopped doing that, or you
When I
just stopped?
stopped doing it,
Yeah.
I did a little bit. It felt like something was missing because I had been doing it for, I think, about 18 months to 2 years, and I'd gotten really used to it and I enjoyed the process. And so when I stopped doing it, there was definitely this sadness, and there has been sort of at moments in time since then where I've gone, oh, that was a really cool thing that I did, and I kind of miss it, and I wish I had the time and the energy to get back into it, to sit down and start practicing poetry writing again, to bring that back in and bring that flow in. Um, and I think I've just sort of naturally moved through that, where I've now got to a space where I'm like, I know that it's there if I want to dip into it. And I really
Yes.
appreciate that I got to explore that side of myself that I didn't know existed. Like I had no idea. And I have gone in, and at the same time as I was doing the poetry, I was writing short stories. And at the time, they were erotic stories as well, and moving through like some different themes. And that was also very short-lived. I think I wrote about ten short stories, and then that was it. And they're the types of things that I was like, I surprised myself. I never pictured myself writing erotic stories, never pictured myself writing poetry. And now I write like fiction books and things as well, which I've been dipping in and out of for about a year. And I've just started to come back to. But I think at the end of the day, it was really this creativity that came out of me that I didn't know that I had. And I think that was what I missed about the poetry writing. But I also, because I'd learned that about myself, that I can be creative and I can dive into these different forms of writing, I then started to dive into other things. And I started to dive into, doing cross stitches and doing quilting and doing paintings, and just going, well, if I can do these things, what else can I do? What else can I enjoy? And how else can I explore my
Lovely.
creativity?
Yes, I
Mm.
love that. We are putting a lot of limitations on ourselves, or other people will do that for us, with our permission. And once when you start taking these layers and saying, no, I'm gonna try this, I'm gonna try that, no one can stop me. Um, um, Stop saying to yourself, I can't do that. I don't know how to do that. I don't know. I'm going to learn if I want. I'm going to do that if I want. So I think limitations um, are stopping us to actually enjoy the life fully. So, yes, it was today a story about writing, and not, it won't maybe resonate with everyone, but just consider the fact that writing can be a tool to heal yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. To heal yourself, to get to know yourself better, and
Yeah,
just to explore yourself as well. And
exactly.
I mean, that's kind of cool as well. Like we are here and we get to explore ourselves. We get to, like you said before, have that duality. We get to know ourselves, and we get to take off these limitations and play with new things. And it's something that I talk about in my Tai Chi classes a lot, is you have people come in, and when you do Tai Chi, it's a lot of repetition. Like we really break down the steps that we're doing. And a lot of that is about health and safety within the joints. And, we're doing fall prevention and all those sorts of things. But I have all these adults in my class, and it does take quite a few weeks. Like we've been doing, it's about 8 weeks, one of my classes, just to start to actually put together the hands and the feet of this particular set. And I remind them quite frequently we're allowed to learn even as adults. We didn't suddenly turn 18 and, all the universe's knowledge just down into our heads and that's it. We're perfect at everything. Like we
Exactly.
forget that once we're adults, we're still allowed to learn. It's still allowed to be messy and we're still allowed to go through that process and see what it looks like. And that also counts for learning about ourselves, as we've talked about many times on our podcast, and learning about ourselves where we're at now, checking back in with ourselves in a few years' time. We go through experiences, we go through learnings that we do shift and we do change. And we also have things that stay the same. And some of those things are really beautiful to know about ourselves and to understand about ourselves. And so, just, I think, taking the pressure off yourself if you do want to start journaling, if you do want to start writing in some form, not only the pressure of what it is that you're writing down, but the pressure of what you might learn about yourself. But letting go of those expectations to then go, oh, I'm just going to see what's here and let myself be surprised by that.
Yes,
Hmm.
and in the end, um, it could be unpleasant to find out certain parts of yourself, and maybe in that moment you wouldn't like that. But I think it's very important to say that uh, we need to learn to love every part of ourselves, even the one who is painful or uncomfortable, or we don't really like it, and just love it. It's part of you. And yeah, how did we come to this subject for writing?
We just both love it so much that we knew we had to
Exactly.
talk about it. We just knew.
Exactly. I think that we did not choose to write. I believe that writing chose us.
Very much so. We definitely have that in common. Um, and I don't know, we've talked about this before, writing, reading, we're very similar in these spaces, and we have just had long conversations about it. And so I
Yes.
think that's why it was just inevitable that we were going to bring it here at some point. But I must say, I just have a lot of joy now, and I just want to go and write.
Me too. So, okay, are we gonna finish? Because I have so many things in my head, and I keep thinking, oh, I need to write down this and that, because I traveled to Serbia, and yeah.
Well, thank you so much. And if you take
Thank
anything
you.
from today, get a pen and paper and just give it a go. Just give
Yeah,
it a go and see what happens. And if you hate it, that's fine. Maybe it's not for you, but just give it a go and
exactly.
actually just have that exploration and see, because we don't know until we try.
Exactly. I agree with everything what you said.
Wonderful. Well, I will
Okay,
see you
see you
next time.
soon. See